Hey everyone, it's Austin and welcome back to the channel. It's day 191 on my journey to 2000, where today is a special episode. I played a tournament over the weekend. I played the 61st Baltimore Open, which is mostly a classical time format, and I'm going to start by recapping my games. So without further ado, let's swap the scene, flip on some tunes, and now I can explain the rest without it being so weird feeling with it full screen and no music. So, it's 5 rounds for the tournament, where the first 2 rounds are game in 20 or game in 45 with 5-second delay, and the last 3 rounds are game in 90 with 5-second delay. The tournament was split up across 2 days. The first 3 rounds in day 1, and the final 2 rounds on day 2. So, did I say that right? First 3 rounds day 1, final 2 rounds day 2. Okay, so now it's the Monday after, the day after, and I want to start recapping the games for you. So, game 1, I had the white pieces against an unrated Eli Bluestone. He is a very awesome young man, very commendable. Him and I ended up checking in with each other like between every round and chatting. Super cool guy. All right, so I played D4, and right off the bat, he plays C5, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I do not feel like playing against the Benoni. It's not that I think it's scary or anything. I'm just not used to playing against it, and this is the first round of the tournament, and I feel already kind of like off balance. You know, you got like the jitters a little bit with the first round. So anyway, I play D5, and then he plays E6, which this is already an unusual move. Sorry, my cat is just like, come here, bud. You want to hang out? Let's hang out. So he plays E6, which already is kind of peculiar to me. I'm used to other moves like knight F6 or D6 or whatever, and I'm just like, okay, well, I know that I usually play C4 and put my knight behind the pawn, so let's do that. C4, and then he takes, which I'm super not used to. I know that normally they would take later, but I'm not used to it happening this early, so I take with the D pawn. He plays D6 now, and then I continue with my play, knight C3. He goes knight F6, pretty normal, attacking the pawn. Let's defend the pawn, reinforce the center, E4. And he plays bishop E7 here, which I'm just not used to this. I'm used to seeing G6, bishop G7. So this already felt kind of weird, but I knew that I wanted to develop my light square bishop. The knight usually goes on F3, and then I castle, and then, you know, we go from there. So I start with H3 here, probably not the most accurate move, but I'm thinking, okay, I want to go knight F3, and I know that pretty much the only place that he's going to want to develop this light square bishop is to pin my knight. So maybe if I nip that in the bud, then it'll help me out later. He castles, I go knight F3. He plays B6, again, something I'm not used to. He's going to fianchetto his queenside bishop. I'm used to seeing A6 to go B5 or something to that effect. So I'm just thinking, okay, you know, maybe he loosened up the B6 square. Or B5 square. I could definitely see this being useful, getting some pressure on this pawn. Normally this pawn is the biggest weakness in the Benoni, and if you win that, you're usually like in great shape. So I just continue normally. These are all plans or thoughts for down the line. So bishop D3, reinforcing that center pawn. I know if I lose this pawn, then I'm toast. So just kind of thinking ahead for that. Now he continues fianchettoing his light square bishop. I castle. My cat never sits on my lap. This is so cute. And then he plays knight BD7. So I continue with bishop f4, again putting pressure on this pawn. Another advantage of h3 is that I can bring my bishop back to h2 with any knight h5 nonsense. and I just feel like I'm developing all my pieces and I have a very comfortable position. So now comes a move that I'm more familiar with, and I wasn't sure, okay, is he playing a6 to play b5, or is he playing a6 to take the square away from my knight? Regardless, I know that I don't want him to play b5, so let's go a4. I know that that's like a big idea in the Benoni, is to expand with your pawns, this 3-on-2. I know it's big to expand on the queen side with that, so I help prevent it. He goes rook c8, which came with a pretty clear threat to me. Again, he wants to expand with his pawns. He wants to push c4 and kick my bishop around. So I play a multifaceted move, king e2, defending the square while simultaneously threatening the pawn. So he actually just goes back, and this is where I really started thinking, okay, you know, I've got all my pieces developed pretty much, or all my minor pieces, and then my rooks are connected. I'm feeling really good about my position, start trying to think about a plan. So the only thing that I'm kind of thinking here is I feel like there needs to be some sort of pawn break, and I'm thinking about opening up my pieces towards the king side. So I'm thinking, okay, I have to prepare e5. So that plan is kind of demonstrated through my following moves, where here I want to improve all my pieces first, so that way when the center of the board opens, I feel like I'm ready. So I go rook f e1, and naturally just putting more juice on the e file. He plays rook e8, kind of counteracting that piece. And then I play rook ad1, you know, rooks to the center, pretty standard stuff, just trying to improve all my pieces before I go and, you know, ruin myself with anything in particular. He plays h6, and now I'm thinking, okay, I'm really close to being able to play e5. All I have to do is make sure that my d5 pawn doesn't hang when I do it. So let's play bishop back to c2, opening up the vision of the rook onto the d5 square while simultaneously still controlling this very important diagonal with my light square bishop. So he plays queen c7, and I didn't at first understand the idea of this move. I kind of felt like it was, you know, he's stepping into this pin, this is fantastic, I'm feeling pretty good about this. And I didn't see a way that this immediately refuted e5. So I played e5. And, you know, I didn't talk about this earlier, but my plan for each of these games is to give you guys kind of a theatrical playthrough of what I was thinking during the game, playing all the moves without any analysis. And then at the end, I want to do a bit of a deep dive into the analysis and actually look at each of these moves. I've done a very surface level analysis of these games already, but I want to dive deeper with you guys, so that way you have the benefit of seeing it, but that way you can also have the benefit of my thought process and what happened during the game, how I was feeling the same way as if I was playing it live for you guys. So I play e5 because I calculated the capture sequence. Takes, 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 takes. I can play e5, right? So he takes. I'm like, okay, you know, I just calculated this. Knight takes. And I completely missed bishop d6. And it felt like my world came to a stop right here. Like his rook opens up, his bishop opens up. This piece is going to be insane. Everything is just attacking my center, and my center is so much more fragile than I thought it was. So I did not see any way to save this knight. I mean, everything's pinned to everything here. My queen is pinned by the rook. This bishop is pinned because it's hanging. And I was just like, oh my god, well, I sat here for like 10 minutes and just thought. And I was thinking, you know, all right, it's just a piece. You got to keep playing. Quit being so dramatic. So I just played queen d2, giving up the piece. He takes, and I didn't see any way to like defend this bishop well. You know, if I go back, then there's some situation where he might be able to take it with his bishop because he has a battery on this diagonal. I didn't see a purpose in going to this diagonal because I'm just biting on granite. And it was just like, okay, I'm just going to trade this thing. So I do. And then he plays bishop takes. And then similarly, I jump my knight into the center, thinking that I may have some tricks to push. You know, if he doesn't take, and if he does, then I kind of just want to go with it. But he does take, and what I calculated was, I want to take with the rook, because if he does this to force a trade, I'd rather it be that my bishop comes here and while the file is empty, versus, you know, if I do it now, then there's some long-term pressure from his rook still, then I just evaluated that as not as good. So that's why I took with the rook here. And then he does play this, forcing my king, or not forcing, but I chose to move my king towards the center. He takes with the rook, I take with the bishop, and I'm thinking about d6. He plays rook there, and I'm like, oh my god, I can't play it. I can't play d6, because if I play d6, I can't remember exactly what I was thinking, but it just felt like all it led to was I take this, and then he takes back with the queen wherever he moves the queen to, and then it doesn't even feel that good. Or if I push, he just takes with the bishop, and then I take. Well, that actually wouldn't work, because then the d6 bishop hangs. But regardless, for whatever reason in the moment, I did not evaluate d6 as being good. So I played queen d2, trying to defend my bishop while simultaneously putting pressure on this square to potentially play d3, trap his dark square bishop. I didn't want to play d3 here because I was thinking that he could just sack his bishop for 2 pawns and just blow me off the board on the light square diagonal with this rook on the e file. I was like, nope, there's no way that I can afford that. He's already up the piece. If he does that, then he's just up 2 pawns in an endgame where my king is also unsafe. There's just no way. So I play queen d3, like I said, and he comes back with the dark square bishop. And I'm like, rats. You know, he saw it. He saw that I was going to trap his bishop. You hate to see it. And I also see he's eyeing up my pawn, so I just play b3, moving out of the way. Also thinking, you know, I'm connecting to that a4 pawn. Might just be kind of helpful. He goes queen d6, stopping all my fun, blockading the pawn. I definitely don't have ideas of d6 anymore. And I'm thinking, okay, you know, I gotta get my pieces out from behind this pawn because I can't even push it anymore. Let's go queen f3. Try to do some damage with my queen all by itself. He goes queen f6, offering a queen trade, and I'm like, hell no, I can't trade queens, are you kidding me? So I'm thinking, where can I go to place, where can I place my queen where I can still, like, try to think about other ideas? So I go queen g5, and my thinking here is, okay, I really want to go specifically to this square, so that way I can hit these 2 pieces. But now he goes bishop d4, which I didn't see this move at all at first, and this move was amazing. I love this move. He's blocking the rook's vision of this pawn. He's opening up an attack on my bishop. He's threatening mate. And I'm like, oh my god. The only thing I'm thinking is, okay, I want to keep my bishop in the center of the board, because not only is it taking away his escape square, but it's also connecting to this bishop. It's also holding on to this pawn. And I didn't want to bring it back here and then tie my bishop down, because then effectively I can never move my bishop the rest of the game without him having checkmate. So I go f3, you know, admittedly a very weakening move, but I didn't feel like I had better. So now he goes rook e5. And at first, I really did not see the purpose of this move. I wholeheartedly thought that it was to swing over to g5 and, you know, basically just come after my king and completely blow me off the board. So I was just thinking, okay, well, let me put my king, or let me just improve my rook, I guess, because it's definitely not doing anything here. So I do that, and then he takes the pawn. I didn't even see that the pawn was hanging, and then I'm sitting here thinking, oh my gosh, I just lost to the pawn in the center. I mean, this game is completely hopeless. And then I saw it. White to play and win the game. Take a quick sip of my drink. It was one of these moments where I did this, like literally shaking, picking up the piece and putting it, because I just could not believe that I got this lucky, because this young man was playing so well. I give back rank mate, queen c8 check, blocks with the queen, blocks with the rook, and there's nothing to stop it. And he played it out again. Just massive kudos to Eli. He was a great opponent, and he ended up going on to do very well in the tournament. Super awesome. So that was the game. Let's switch a little bit and let's get into the analysis now, because this is what I'm most excited for, right? This is how you learn the most. This is how you improve the most, is analyzing our games, and not just that, but analyzing them deeply. So d4, c5, d5, e6 is a book move, c4, you know, accidentally a book move, takes, d6, knight c3, all book so far, still book. And then this is where, like I said, I was expecting g6. Let's look at the Explorer real quick. Yeah, like 99% of the games on Chess.com here go g6. But, you know, in this case, Eli went bishop e7. And h3 is surprisingly the best move. Wow, that's crazy. That feels good. That feels good. Definitely limiting the scope of the light square bishop, which I feel like is huge. He castle's not the best. It wanted knight bd7 immediately here. Knight f3 isn't even the best. Bishop d3 is a little bit better. Perhaps, if I had to guess, I would say it's because there are some positions where in these structures where you want to go f3 and knight g e2. So perhaps that's the idea. Bishop d3, knight bd7, and it wants an early a4, preventing any nonsense over there. Yeah, queen a5 is pretty normal. Yeah, now it wants knight f3. Hard to say. I mean, I don't want to go too deep into that one move. h4 is definitely a common theme to play against the Benoni with white, which is why we see it later. But anyway, bishop d3. Hifi and Koto is, wow, knight e8 the best move. Maybe it's to play f5. Has to be. Hard to say. So I castle. He goes knight bd7, best move. It still wants a4 so bad. Bishop f4. So we've, like, this whole opening, we've been sitting a little bit above +1, which that's just how it is with the Benoni. The engine technically refutes it. With practical play, it's hardly refuted, obviously. So he plays a6, and now it's screaming a4, so I finally play it. It's the best move. Then he goes rook there. His best move still knight e8. One of you guys in the comments will have to explain this maneuver to me. Knight e8. Queen c2 or queen e2. Most logical plan here. I mean, it just makes sense. It stops his threat and makes a threat of our own while developing a piece. That's a 3-in-1 right there. Going back is actually the best move. Okay. Okay. So here's where I started to make general improving moves. Knight d2 is best. Then let's say rook e8. Bishop e3. Let's say bishop e3. See, now this makes more sense to me. And now he has to go bishop f8. Which is a great defensive move while simultaneously putting pressure here. But this pawn looks pretty hanging to me. So if we take, let's try to calculate a little bit here. Takes. This pawn ends up hanging, I think. So takes. Can't take back because then the queen would hang. And I'd be worried about discoveries on this square. So it's just too much to do right now. Let's see what the engine gives here. So this is still plus 0.75. And it wants knight takes d5 right away here. Which makes a whole lot of sense. Okay, now it's saying this. Now it's knight takes. Really, knight takes. Okay, bishop takes. e5. Wow, pretty. We've got a crazy bishop here on d6. Very nice idea. Okay, so that is doable. So now we see kind of the point of knight d2, and the purpose being to reroute and target these weak squares that I was previously pointing out. It makes a whole lot of sense. So anyway, that doesn't happen. I play rook a d1. It still wants knight d2, probably for the same reasons. h6 still wants knight d2. Bishop c2 is, bishop c2 is fine. Queen c7. God, it wants knight c2 so bad. e5 is just a flat out mistake. It gives up all my advantage. It's plus 0.3. And this needed to be a closed and more maneuvering game. And I realized this the second that he played bishop d6, is that although it felt like I might be opening up my pieces, it's really his pieces that are opening up here. Especially with this queen on c7. So, yeah, I definitely got bit here with e5. Takes is the best move. Knight takes is good. I thought that this was a blunder after bishop d6. Bishop d6 being best. And now the engine is giving knight e4 as the only way to save the position. This is equal. It's giving rook takes. Knight takes check. G takes. Why not knight takes? Because that just hangs a piece. Yeah. Yeah, that just hangs a piece. In case you were wondering. So you can't play knight takes. G takes. Queen g4 check. Moving out of the way. Still attacking the rook. Blocking with the rook. So now we take the exchange. F takes. Maybe H takes is a little bit better. F4. H4, a little bit better. Queen D8. H takes. Really? H takes. Okay. It wants this. Sack the exchange back. This is big brain, man. G takes. Okay, now it's... Okay, what happened? Now it's suddenly winning for white. The computer doesn't realize how good this is. It's saying 95 is best, but after we sack the rook, it's just not. Wow, that's beautiful. Anyway, that's a little bit too deep for me. I'd probably be able to find this. H4, okay, H4 is definitely findable. Taking. So, if he plays this instead, yeah, I mean, I feel like it's only logical to sack the rook. I feel like this is better, even though the engine's not saying it right now. I feel like this is way better. Queen H3, going for the H7 square. King F8. Okay, now it's, yeah, no, Knight F8 is what it wants. Knight F8 and you'll never get checkmated, right? Queen H6. Ah, that's crazy. Scary looking move. Okay, and the game goes on, but anyway, I did not see any way to save this knight, so I stepped out of the way. We should probably analyze that a little bit deeper, right? Here. What if one of the other pieces take? Like here. That's definitely not good, because after this... Not even that? Just this, and we're pinning everything? Queen takes d6. Everything's lined up on that square, and we just go here, because it hits the queen, so we can do it. Queen f8. Queen d3. But isn't that a... Can't he take that? So like, let's say knight takes. Oh my god, it's mate. I'm stupid. This is also threatening mate, that's why you can do it. So taking this is best. Just sacking the exchange. Yeah, very cool. So yeah, 94 really coming in clutch there, which is what I played now. But after takes, check. It's just -5. Okay, this was a mistake. Okay, I had d6. So let's look at d6. Why bishop takes? Why not just queen here? Yeah, queen here just seems like everything's fine. We just have counterplay. d7. Rook d8. Queen here. g3. g3 now. Queen f3 check first, so that way you take this pawn with check. You couldn't block the check earlier because then the rook was hanging. Queen e3 check. Just getting roasted here, out in the open. Gotta make sure we're moving on dark squares here. We're not going to blunder any kind of fork. Queen e5 check. Yeah, it's basically just... It's still really bad, but I guess there's some play. I'm gonna guess that that was a move more than once. Yeah, d6 again. So actually, let's look at the engine line instead of that. What does it want? Queen b8 is a little weird, and it's just the same. It's just the same thing. So it's all good. Missed that move a couple of times. Don't have it anymore. So I had the right idea with rook e1. Just came later. Okay, so this was best. G6. Crazy. F3, yeah. So this was the best move. But then this was the blunder. Absolutely crazy. I got very lucky. You know, this young man was definitely playing way above me this game and deserved to win. Feels scummy to win like that. Okay, so let's quickly look at the lines that I analyzed and come up with some takeaways. So in general, I think something to take away from the opening here is that bishop d3 is generally better to play earlier than knight f3 because it's a more flexible move. You don't know if your knight's going here or specifically if you're playing f3 yet. So it might be worth going bishop d3 first because you know that's where your bishop's going. Additionally, a4 to grab control of the b5 square sooner rather than later is very good. And here in the middle game, I think if I had to walk away with a better middle game plan to play against this type of Benoni, or perhaps any type of Benoni, is this idea to converge on the d6 pawn. And the line that I calculated, I mean, you have to be precise in your calculation here, but this does win you a pawn. Or it at least gets you a, what's the word I'm looking for? A lighthouse bishop. Just beautiful outpost here. The red arrow is screaming. Pressure on a6. I feel like if he pushed a5 here, it would be a massive, massive, mistake, basically. Positionally. Let's just look. Yeah, a5 it's just too much of a hole. Rook ad1, and we're already, like, kind of blowing things open. So his best move here is c4. But even that, does this not just hang a pawn? No, it doesn't, because then he wins back the center pawn. So we have to play rooks or bishop c2. And then it's knight takes anyway? That's second best engine move. Because, you know, you're temporarily sacking the piece for a pin. So, for example, this is the best move. And then, yeah, just f6. Just wins it back. Then we go here. Threatening the entire house. And then he lets us take the whole house. Very confusing. But in general, a good idea is this reroute to hit on the d6 square. And then I think a big thing is just trying to calculate accurately. You know, this was a 45-minute game. In a 45-minute game, I probably should not have been surprised by bishop d6. You know, looking at it, you know, through the lens of self-reflection, like, this is definitely, like, I should not have been surprised by this move. I should have seen it. So definitely still got a lot of work to do with my calculation. I think knight e4 is kind of hard to find, especially the line that follows. I probably should have tried harder to find it, but honestly, it's one of those things where, at least for a move or two, I was mentally, like, turned off. You know, I'm like, oh man, I'm losing this game. There it goes. But anyway, that's a recap. That's day one. So we're going to go over 5 different games. Just to be able to do it justice, I'm going to break it up into 5 separate videos because I want to, again, explain to you guys my thoughts, my feelings during the game, and my reactions and things like that. So that way we can go back and analyze it together and understand from the analysis more adequately why things were played and all that kind of situation. So yeah, we're already 35 minutes into this recording, which is why, you know, I have to do it one game at a time. Otherwise, this video is going to be like 4 hours long. So if you made it this far into the video, thank you guys very much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out a lot. I know that you guys really liked yesterday's video. It was my most popular by a long shot, where I titled it, "I'm So Bad." It would be great if we got some good traction on a video where I actually played kind of well. Not, well, that wasn't this game, but, you know, I'm just saying in general. Support me when I do well too, please. Thank you guys. I'll see you tomorrow.